Okay, so today arrived our Bancroft 1/200th scale Titanic from Motionrc. So I'll be doing a video review of it and an unboxing and showing you guys some tricks. This is the way it comes. This box basically, I'm going to open up the tape on the bottom here and this top unit should come off, and I'll show you in stages how I get this thing out of here. FedEx still can't follow simple instructions and keep it this side up, so they stored it on its end. So we'll see how it did. Okay, here it is with the top box off. That's the bottom. All I did was use a simple kitchen knife, and I had it on a table so I could get up underneath and cut around the base. And the top portion of the box just lifts off like that, and then it reveals the inside. So it sits in here resting. There's our Titanic on these, basically these styrofoam bulkheads, and it floats. So there's a fitted one for the bow, and the stern's completely covered, and this right here is the box for the transmitter. So it's actually packed really well, despite FedEx's efforts of insisting on stacking it on its end. My package has a little extra tape on it because I've asked the folks at RC Motion to actually inspect it prior to sending it to me. This had to do with the fact that it changed from a 1/150th scale to a 1/200 scale, but overall, this is where we're at. Now, my intentions are to just simply reach in here and just lift it out, and once I cut this tape away, and it should float on these styrofoam bulkheads, and then I'll remove those piecemeal. So here's where we're at. We have it lifted out of the box, and like I said, you just reach in around the sides. Just be careful because some of the rigging in here, if your hand's a little bit bigger, you're not clumsy, you might break off some of this rigging. There's a lot of detail on the model, but you can get your hands right around this thing and basically lift it up and out of the box. And like I said, it's just floating on these shipping bulkheads. Now for this next part, they separate. You just have to cut the tape here and spread these out and pull them around the hull, and they'll come off. So I'm going to still use the stern end point and pull the bow out, so that'll hold the ship's hull up while I pull the rest of these pieces off. Again, just be careful because there's a lot of detail on the model. So far, it looks beautiful. It's a lot of detail. It's great looking, and I'm not seeing any shipping damage, which is very nice. There we go. All right, so I've cut away the tape at the bottom, and like I said, I'm going to use the front foam here and the foam on the stern just to keep the hull up suspended. But all you need to do really is you free up this tape, and then just be careful because there's a lot of detailed rigging on the vessel. You just pull apart the sides of these styrofoam bulkheads and just lift. Just nice and careful, make sure you don't snag anything, and voila. Now I'm going to do it for the rest of it, and then we'll get this model on a stand. All right, now all of our packaging has been removed, and I put the wood stand together to assist, and the model's completely unpacked. Now there'll be a couple things I'm going to point out to you here. It's a lot of awesome detail, but I'll go over that later. There's parts of the rigging that naturally are not affixed to the masts for shipping purposes, otherwise it would break. So these things are very small, and they connect to various parts on the mast, so I recommend a needle nose pliers. It's kind of difficult to see. Working with the rigging on this model, I think, is going to probably be one of the more nerve-wracking parts of its operation because there's a lot of fine, subtle details. So a portion of the main rigging that goes across, that was actually the transmission wires for the wireless system on the Titanic, is affixed to funnel number 4. This green tape here covers these little fake-like facades that they've put over the Allen key bolts that go through the ship, and they hold the top promenade deck on the model, which comes off and gives you access to all the internals. So there's a set of those here amidships, and then there's another set flanking the bridge over here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that tape and then get all the rigging up and show you the next completed phase of this. All right. So sorry about the steadiness of this, but I wanted to show you guys what you're working with when you get the rigging set up on the ship. So this is the top of the aft mast, And this is where the hooks come and meet up with the mast. They're designed to be removable, but it is tiny. So the biggest piece of recommendation I can give to you guys is move slowly and deliberately, because a lot of this stuff is delicate. And if you move fast, you might snap some rigging, break a component, and that would just be a shame because the detail is phenomenal. So now I'm going to back out and show you the connection points for the rigging. All right, there you go. Now you can see what we were working with. So I have it up on the stand. All the rigging's done. The rigging it's just beautiful. I've built models of the Titanic in the past, and yeah, let's just say I never took on the rigging. But you can just see all the detail on it. So there's the main transmission wires that run across between the forward mast. It's hard to see, so I'll try and keep that. Yeah, here you go, right here. Yeah, I know that kind of stinks. Sorry about that, folks. But there's 4 lines that come across between the aft mast. Here's the hookup point. And the forward mast. The forward mast comes attached for you. And then it comes down. The 4 lines are repeated to the top of the radio room where the Marconi generator was. So we know just enough about the Titanic to be dangerous here in this video. So any historians can chime in and correct me if need be. But this promenade deck is designed to come off. There's these faux ports that you remove, and underneath them are the Allen keys, and I'll show you that. So that lifts this whole top promenade deck off. Its separation is right about here. And then you'll have to remove this hook, and the line that comes down to the Marconi generator right here. And then you'll be able to lift up the promenade and scoot it out from underneath the main rigging without taking this top line down.
What's a
and then,
generator?
well, the Marconi generator was used to create the Morse code signals that the Titanic used.
Oh, the beep beeps.
Yep, they had the beep beeps, exactly. These are your aft lines. They come up. These 2 are joined together, and they go into that small hook up there, and that's it. But you don't have to remove that, so you should be able to set that up. There's my son running around with his first model. But yep, so this is it up on the stand with all the rigging in place. And like I said, move slowly and deliberately. Treat everything in between these masts as like a precautionary area. Any fast movements in here and you could be disappointed. It's going to be kind of nerve-wracking, but that's the price you pay for something like this. But the rigging is just phenomenal. So a little bit here, I'll just move around, show you some of the details on the ship. It's pretty exquisite. Like everything from the capstans to the rigging to the front auxiliary crane, the loading davits, crane capstans that are here in the front for shipping of goods, rigging on the cranes for loading goods. It's got a faux teak wood that overlays the walls around the bridge, and you probably won't see it here, but if you get one of these models, there's even engine order telegraphs inside the bridge and a ship's wheel. The lifeboats have their davit rigging in, which is just beautiful. You got tons of little brass staircases in different parts that are made of brass components.
The ship's wheel is not inside the bridge. I don't see it.
It's there, buddy. You have all the benches. Each of these windows here across the top, they're all brass inlays. Even down to the main promenade deck here, all of these windows here have a brass inlay. So the amount of detail in an RC ready to run kit is just, it's phenomenal. And they've done a fabulous job with the ship.
And there's even like golden kind of bronze propellers.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So we got our cover for the grand staircase. It's their weather cover, and underneath that would be that elaborate dome. You got the ship's gyro compass.
Oh, that's
You got
the first compass that they use?
That's right. You got the secondary staircase. And you can see here in the back, you got a blank really for auxiliary services. This was a dummy funnel that actually didn't feed into any of the main boiler rooms like the first 3 did. Yeah, you come across the back, you can see tons of detail again. And then you come across the poop deck and onto the docking bridge. And if you can see this, it's even got the warning sign to keep passengers away from the screws on the sides here. And I believe the real Titanic actually had this sign, small detail, right? Had this sign located on the back gate. If you guys remember that scene in Titanic where two protagonists met. But yeah, it's beautifully done. The detail is just exquisite. She looks great. Gone ahead and removed these. Let me see if I can focus on this. There's these little faux covers that go over where the Allen keys are that allow you to remove that promenade deck. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart and we'll take a look at so I've got the faux covers removed and I have my Allen key bolts backed out. There's 4, right? 2 adjacent to the bridge and then 2 amidships. And then I've removed the tiny little hook here. Just be careful because it will catch on things. That comes from the top of the Marconi generator right there. That's off because that will stay with the main rigging here on the hull. And then I've removed the 2 pieces that come from the aft upper deck here. There was a staircase in here and access to the upper decks as well and access to first class. You can see one of those hooks right there and the other one's just draped over there. And they come from these 2 points on the ship right here on the aft mast, here and here. If you need to, you can actually, this can bend forward just slightly and relieve just enough pressure off of the hook to make it easier to get out. You could use, again, moving slow. I used needle nose pliers there that my son picked up, and I got them off. Okay, so now I'm going to just pop this promenade deck off, all the stacks and everything, and we'll take a look inside. Okay, here we go. So I've separated the upper promenade deck. Came off pretty easily from the hull. And I still have in place, I didn't have to mess around with any of this aft rigging, so once that's set up, it should stay on. The main rigging for the ship's communication system is still across. You can see the cables that are hanging down for the radio room and the front. So that's it. Now you have to maneuver the deck as it comes off underneath, so just be cautious, and then it reveals all the innards of the model. So yeah, it's put together. It's pretty nice. Triple screws, triple motors. There's your rudder servo. So there's no access point like you'd see in the pictures on the back there, because I believe that was of the pictures of the larger scale model. So it's readily accessible. It's right there. Again, I'm being very cautious as I step around not to snag any rigging. And there's your receiver and your speed controller. It's all right there. Then you can kind of see where those 4 Allen bolts reach through the deck. You could probably do this with magnets. I don't see this like flopping off the ship. It lifts out relatively easy. There's no, you shouldn't, if anything's requiring force, something's wrong. So just slow down and reevaluate, because this should lift up pretty easy. But yeah, there you go. It's a nice fiberglass hull. I mean, the lines are really clean. The water line's a little bit high. The paint should be a little bit lower here. It's like 1 row higher than actually it would be scale. So that won't be difficult to fix. I mean, considering they did all this marvelous work with the rigging, I don't have a problem kind of hitting the hull with another paint coat of black to just lower that water line a little bit. And just looking at the size of this, it's going to need, I'd say, 10 pounds of weight. And there's plenty of room for it in there to keep it nice and low to the bottom, because Titanic was long and narrow. So any weight that you put in this ship, if it comes up high, you're really going to have a high center of gravity, and it's not going to be very stable. Here's the promenade deck, and you can kind of see that there. And I'll go ahead and pick it up and we'll take a look at it. Again, like you could just see, like moving around with this rigging here, you got to be real careful. Very deliberate where you put your hands. It's really nice. It's held together, and you go underneath here, there's a support frame basically of wood that runs all the way down the model. That's nice. It keeps it rigid. All right, so my son's going to help us do a quick function test here. Go ahead and operate our ship here. We got the battery in, got it comes synced so you don't have to bind anything, and everything's functioning. All right, looking good. Thanks, Alex.
So the real life Titanic was 882 feet long. She had a beam of 90 feet. She weighed 45,000 tons. She was capable of 21 knots and had a capacity of 2,200 people.
Excellent. Good job, buddy. Okay, we've got the promenade deck back on now. The faux deck covers are over our Allen keys, which are adjacent to the bridge and amidships. And here she is, all fully assembled, rigged. It's a beautiful model. I have to say that Bancroft, Motionrc, they've got a real winner here. Just all the detail in it. The paint job is excellent. The teak wood, the detail on the capstans, the rigging is exquisite. All the attention to detail, the tension in the lines, nothing is like overly loose. When you look through the model, you have your running lights, your navigation running lights, the brass fittings on the stacks, and
Really good.
Yep.
It's really goodly detailed.
And the steam whistles. If you look at the brass inlays for the windows, like right here, I believe this was the actual gymnasium on the ship. The wooden decks. The top portion of the ship here doesn't have a wooden deck. I guess that kind of makes sense because of what they're working with here, that it was removable. You could just see the detail on those little benches are nice. The davits for the lifeboats. It's for what you pay, what you get out of this model it's incredible. Again, just take your time with it. This rigging, you have to be very deliberate when you move, when you go to grab something. Like, I'm probably maybe a little bit paranoid about this, but that's the last thing I want to do is knock a piece of the rigging off, because I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm looking at how it's tied up and some of the connections where it meets on the deck. Like, if you look around the smokestacks and some of these fittings, there's no way I'm going to get that back on. So an overabundance of operational caution is how I'm going to slay this beast. And hopefully I don't break any of the rigging. One other thing I'll point out is, yeah, you can even see the brass inlays on the windows, like on the promenade deck. So the detail is just, it's exquisite. So for the 1,600 and change, I really think there's a lot of value here. All of this rigging that comes up off of the mast, it's very finely attached to these points here. So again, just be cautious when you're handling the model. That's what you get. If you want this kind of scale, replication, and detail, and have something that is ready to go and function, you just got to be careful with it. The lines on it are beautiful. The dimensions are accurate. It's a sizable model. It has some really nice dimensions to it. It's definitely a nice discussion piece. It comes with this basic wood stand that I have assembled here. An Admiral battery. This is what you get out of the box. You get the Bancroft controller, Admiral battery, and then a charger for it.
We have two of all those.
Yep. And
We
then
got another one.
The only other thing is I believe she'll probably need about 10 pounds of ballast because it's a lot of hull. Well, either way, if there's anything you would like me to add to the review, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm not trying to make a YouTube channel or anything like that. I just noticed that when I was trying to get information on these models, there wasn't a lot out there. So I decided to just make a video on my own and share it with the community that I know is out there that are interested in these models, that are interested in RC ships. So just go ahead and give me some feedback, and enjoy your day.
Subscribe.
We're not looking to become a YouTube family.
Yes, we are.
I'm actually trying to get my kids off YouTube. All right. Take care, everybody.